Renenutet the Snake Goddess. This is a goddess whose celestial origins come from Canis Major, and we're directly following this lead from the last profile we did, which was her husband, who was the crocodile Netjer Sobek. He was a powerful protector god. In his role as the crocodile, she remains a powerful protector Netjer in her role as the snake or the cobra. This was a Netjer whose period of deification runs from approximately 500 BCE till the end of the Kemetic civilization with the invasion of the Persian army. She is associated with fertility, power, and protection. Her known relations are Sobek, who was her consort, but she is also linked to the god Neferu, who is one of her many children. She is also known as Termuthis, Ernutet. This is a Netjer or Neteru who establishes herself in the fertile Nile region or along the Delta area and assumes or associates with the persona of the Cobra, which is of particular massive importance for these cultures, particularly at this time. So we've talked previously about the association with snakes and knowledge, and that association with humans that existed, for many, many years of our early civilizations. And also we've discussed very briefly the systematic vilification of that same animal and that same relationship, but we will discuss that in other videos. So that this deity comes down and obviously associate with the snake, which is very important to these people, not only because of their prevalence. So there were lots of cobras in that area, lots of poisonous snakes. So they had to adjust and learn how to live among these deadly predators. But also that snakes were an enemy of rodents, and rodents were an enemy of grain stores, and grain stores being one of the important beginning components of actual civilization of humans. So this association with the cobra is very important and stands out, obviously. And we see cobra symbols throughout Kemetic civilization, typically associated with royalty. That's why they're shown on the Pharaoh's crown. And this is what the cobra is a symbol of. These cobras are also known to be protectors of the royalty, particularly the pharaohs. And the personification of the cobra deity herself is Wajet. And these cobras throughout history are known again for being protectors of the pharaoh, and so are placed in a place of reverence, something that we've seen in other ancient civilizations during the same period of time. In India, the Indus River Valley, the king cobra was known as the most venomous in the world, and they were viewed as sacred creatures in these cultures. There are many sacred sites throughout Hinduism that recognizes the gracefulness and power and regenerative association of the cobra as associated with Lord Shiva, and Shiva is often depicted in the form of a cobra. So Renenutet sits at the heart of this cobra snake representation under Kemetic Nubian philosophy, and that just shows what she really represents: a symbol with royalty, associated with power, associated with wisdom. She was a very powerful Netjer whose gaze destroyed her enemy. However, the ancient Kemites had no reason to fear her, as she offered them protection in many areas of life. And again, this goes right we talked about in terms of snake deification that we saw early on in not only Kemet, but also in Sumeria and some of the earliest civilizations on the planet. So she's uniquely tied into that. She was typically depicted as either a woman or a cobra, or a woman with the cobra head, wearing a double plume headdress or the solar disc. She is also depicted with the lion's head like Hathor, and in one of these forms she is seen as the Eye of Ra. We will talk more specifically about the Eye of Ra, as that was the role of the protector for the sun Neteru, and thus symbolized protection of all creation. In the underworld, she became a fearsome, fire-breathing cobra who could kill with one gaze. Now, in other mythologies, Renenutet is considered to be the wife of Geb and the mother of Nehebuka, who was another snake Netjer who guarded the entrance of the underworld and protected Ra as he passes through other night. But in most traditions, she is seen as being the consort of Sobek, who himself was a protector god of chaos and possibly the father of the chaos Neteru Set. She is also seen as the mother of Nefri, who was the personification of corn, and this deity was particularly closely associated with Asar, who himself was a deity or netjer of vegetation. Renenutet was considered to be an example of perfect motherhood, and in this identity she was merged with Auset and becomes known as Termuthis. In ancient Kemet, names were words of great power. As a Netru of suckling, Renenutet gave each newborn child a secret name along with her mother's milk. In this role, she was given the epitaph, "She Who Rears." She also protected children from curses. In fact, the child was said to have Renenutet upon his shoulders from his first day. In this role, she was linked to Renenet, a goddess of childbirth, who actually oversaw the physical labor. In order for a person to enjoy eternal life, their image and their name must survive. As Renenutet gave each person their name, she was linked to Shai, who was a netjer of fate. Ramses II stated that he was Lord of Shai and creator of Renenutet as an indication of his power to control his own fate. Renenutet and Shai were often depicted with Jehudi and were sometimes known as the hands of Jehudi. In the Litany of Re, she appears in the underworld as the Lady of Justification, and in this role she was associated with the Neteru Ma'at. According to the pyramid text, Renenutet was a goddess of plenty and good fortune. At this time, snakes were often seen in the fields around harvest, hunting the rodents who would threaten the crop. As a result, Renenutet was considered to protect the harvest and given another epitaph with goddess of the double granary, the lady of fertile fields, and the lady of granaries. Amenhotep III and Amenhotep IV dedicated a temple to Renenutet, Sobek, and Heru at the site that is now called Menedet Mandi, which was expanded during the Ptolemaic period. And in this temple, an annual harvest fest was held in her honor, during which a quantity of the very best produce was dedicated to her. And throughout Kemet, shrines were built in areas where wine was brewed. And she was very heavily linked to both the fertility of growing the grapes for wine, and then also the harvesting of the wines being protected from the rodents. From her earliest depictions, it was clear that she was designated to be a protector of the Pharaoh, and in fact, the statue of her nursing the Pharaoh earned the nourishing snake, and she used magic and other incantations to add additional protections for the Pharaoh when he wasn't directly in her presence. She embedded his clothing with power which would repel his enemies, and by the New Kingdom, her powers extended into mummification rituals, which she embedded the mummy wrappings with magical powers for protection. During the Ptolemaic period, her role was expanded further beyond that, and she became known as a goddess of ultimate protection through her magical abilities. Renenutet remains a netjer that is somewhat hidden from sight, as the deification or veneration of snakes became less and less common from these early peoples. I believe, as we saw, a spread of Abrahamic beliefs and a vilification of the snake symbol. Snakes, again, have been important not only in ancient Kemet, but also in Nubia, and we see the Sumerians with their association with the Anunnaki. So even now, modern medical symbol to the snake as a symbol of higher education and greater knowledge, and snakes were seen as beings who brought great knowledge to us. You'll hear me talk repetitively about the concept of the snake deity throughout many cultures. So this deity for me is particularly central to that passage of knowledge, particularly in her role as a protector, and then in her role as being able to impart magical abilities of protection, both through the earliest kingdoms all the way through the Ptolemaic period. So again, thank you for joining us here at Nine World Chronicles as we dig into more of these Neterus and gods from other cultures. There is already a story about her husband Sobek already in our library of videos. Please check that out, but go to our website if you want to see other connections to other deities as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe.